Welcome to another episode of Kiwi Talkz. My guest today, he's a bit of a legend in South Auckland. Some call him the Samoan Dr. Dre. I call him the man with the legacy that has more weight than a hippopotamus. My man, Anonymouz.
Yo, thank you for having me. Say levels. Yo,
all good. Anonymouz has brought a few of the boys here, so we're probably having a party afterwards. Can you just move that mic? Yep, just a bit forward, yeah. So, first off, bro, like, how come you chose the name Anonymouz? Because you're not really anonymous anymore. You're quite well known now, hey?
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
No, it's all good, bro.
The name Anonymous, I just feel like growing up, like a lot of us, you know, is quite confused, growing up in different environments, quite schizophrenic. The life at home was different to the life you had at church, which was different to the life you had at school, which was different to the life in Up Your Way car park on a Friday, Saturday night. You know, you just become different people to different environments. And so I'd always kind of, you know, that stereotypical, trying to find myself, don't know who I am. So, you know, and also in hip hop, that whole thing of when you're trying to come up with a cool name for yourself, an artist name. And true. I went through so many different names, and when, you know, I wish I didn't have to have a name. And then I can't remember who it was, like, hey, there's a name for having no name. You know, Anonymous was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So, yeah. You know, did the whole hip hop thing, change the S to a Z, you know, switch it up.
Gotta keep it hood, man.
Yeah. And also, I guess, because I've got a lot of different backgrounds in different areas of music, and I've just grown up in, like I said, quite different environments. So I kind of feel like in my creative practice, I create different identities and different projects I go into. So in the morning, I might be doing hip hop, and I kind of draw from those experiences, and that's the character I play for that project. Yeah. And then I'm working with an orchestra, and I have to remember that part of me. And then if I'm doing something for my parents and cultural resourcing. So Anonymous is just a blank space, a blank slate. Yeah. And I just create I pull on different experiences depending on the project and whatever the stories they have.
Has anyone ever compared you to that hacking group called Anonymous? Do you know about that hacking group? The cybersecurity, or the cybersecurity hackers have hacked governments and stuff. If it would be like, yo, man, are you part of that?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it was the TPPA. They had that march on, and I actually went on that with one of those anonymous masks things, and and a few people caught on to that, and they thought it was quite funny. But yeah, I mean, the name, to me, it's a bit of a gimmick, but, you know, whether people know me or not, the name still applies. So.
Nah. You are the name now, bro. So, yeah. So, let me know how you got into music, bro. How did it all begin, man?
Yeah, like a lot of us in church. Church was the foundation for me.
Nice.
Māori Samoan Methodist. So, yeah, my parents forced me into, you know, to play piano for church. Yeah. They wanted me to play for choir and all that sort of thing.
How young were you when they first got you into it?
7 years old was when I first started playing piano. Yeah. And they put me with my auntie. She played organ, my auntie Fiona, and I just shadowed her piano lessons young, and then I got into it myself. And it was purely for that purpose of, you know, eventually playing for our choir, our Alpha Pese. And that's where I started to learn how to play piano. Went through the classical scene, had a private, a piano teacher that I saw every Saturday. Just transitioned into playing for choir. But, you know,
did you ever sing on the choir as well, or just play?
Nah, I suck at singing. I just play, man. But then I discovered hip hop, and that's when I started to kind of take those skills that were supposed to be playing church music and start trying to imitate I Am Mad at You or whatever piano was on the hip hop songs. And then I started, that's kind of where it all started for me, was, you know, initially getting the discipline of playing piano through playing for church, but I caught that hip hop bug, and everything changed after that.
One of the cool things about piano is you can transfer it to hip hop beats and stuff quite easily, because you can make a lot of beats using a keyboard. Yeah. Do you use a drum machine as well when you make beats, or is it mostly through the keys?
So I started off making beat pause tapes on cassette decks.
Oh, real?
So that's where I really caught the production bug. I didn't know till later on, much later on, that other people were doing it, but I know as a kid, like, I was fascinated. In our lounge, we had for those who, I'm sure a lot of people out there still remember the cassette tape decks, but there was an tape deck and a B tape deck, and, you know, I'd record, like, on the Casio keyboard, like, 2 minutes of just drum beats, playing the drums, and then you'd play that on tape B and press hit record on tape A, and so you're hearing the drums back, but now you play a bass line, and so it's the Casio and the mic input of the cassette deck, and then you then have the tape on tape A that's now got the drums and the bass, and you swap the tapes out, play that back, and now you're adding the keys on top, and you just keep going back and forth on these tapes until you get a really hissy tape, but it's an instrumental. And that's how I transferred those piano skills into making beats on a cassette tape deck. And that was also because I was forced to, because I really wanted to be a rapper back then, but like when mucking around with mates at church and stuff, because I was the only one that knew how to play. They're like, no, let us rap, you make the music for us, and all that sort of thing. So I kind of eventually just got pushed into that. I wish I could rap though. I've given it a shot.
Do you prefer being front and center, or do you like being
I like in the back.
Yeah.
I like being in the back.
That's good too. Anonymity too. You don't have to worry about fame or anything. Although I'd imagine that people stop you quite a bit in South Auckland and be like, hey, bro.
Yeah, well, it's in my personality. I can be socially awkward, trying to front foot a lot of things. Some of the roles I'm in, I had to do that. I'm not totally comfortable with it, and but I'm definitely happy in the background, just shaping things and
Because you've done quite a bit of stuff. Like obviously you have done a bit of rapping and stuff, but you've done beats, a bit of DJ basics in terms of scratching and stuff too. Yeah. And you've done film, and I actually only found this out recently that you've conducted like orchestras and stuff. Yeah.
A whole bunch of crazy stuff. The videography's been more so the recent 4 or 5 years, but like I said, my training and classical background, that really underpinned a lot of things that I do now. So I write for orchestras, I program music, I songwrite, anything around music and sound. That's what I really, really love. But the past 4 or 5 years, it's transferred over into the visual storytelling.
Is there one particular thing that you like to do more than the others? Or is there one, like say with mixing, right? You know how, or when you're doing a track, there's the part of making the beat and then recording and then the mixing and the mastering. Is there a particular part of that process you like the most? And is there a part that you don't like? I know when I do it, I hate mixing because it takes ages.
Yeah. I've got one of these personalities. I just look for something that I haven't done before, something new, something exciting, and I get distracted quite easily in that kind of way. And so I think of all the different things, it's when I like the act of producing music. Creating. Like the feeling of digging for a sample, and when you find that sample or hear something that you're like, and immediately you calculate in your head how that could be flipped, or how you could loop it, or how you could slow it down, or how that end product of that potential could be. That part of the process is my favorite part. Or when you're mucking around on the piano and you're trying different chords, when you come across a combination of chords that you can hear can become the foundation of something. Of all the different things, to me, that's the favorite feeling. It's that discovery of potential. I
was talking to one of my previous guests, Unchained, about this, but do you ever get writer's block where you're just sitting there in front of your keyboard and you're just like, oh man, nothing's coming to mind?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time?
And I remember being at one of these workshops where Dave Dobbin was, he's a legendary songwriter, and he was like, for every hit of his was 100 crap songs. And that was the ratio for a legendary songwriter. So I try to discipline myself to still keep pushing through even when I'm not inspired, knowing that you just got to try to get your ratio probability numbers up to get,
So do you go away and come back, or do you just stay on the keys and just keep going until something comes?
And on my archives, I've got some beats that have been there for 10 years, 15 years, and something that might come out now, or the recent past couple of months or past year, has been something that I sketched out 10 years ago, and it just didn't connect then, but now it kind of makes sense.
So you go through the vault and then find some old stuff?
Yeah, so I've got a vault, an archive of just things that I just sketch. And pretty much my life now is off my archives. I've got so much archival beat sketches, sound samples, and footage. Pretty much anything I do now, I'm just like, okay, what's the story require? Pull up the files and, I remember that beat. You still kind of remember little sketches I started with and so forth.
So like if an artist hits you up, hey man, you got any beats? You'll go to your archive and try and find something that you think might fit the artist, or do you
start
something from scratch?
Yeah, both.
Both,
you know, quite often both. Yeah, in a way, I just like documenting a whole bunch of stuff, having a whole bunch of raw files and samples on standby. So regardless of the project or the artist, you know, at least I've got a starting point there instead of having to always start from scratch. But then by the same token, I deliberately try to train myself to create from scratch all the time, because that's high pressure. Like, and I never used to enjoy those sessions, but a lot of the biggest tracks I've done have been under high pressure, where I've had to create in front of an artist, you know, like you're not
like
handing
on the spot
from scratch. Everybody watch me make it. Let's go. You know, that
is that a bit nerve-wracking though?
Absolutely.
Looking after you over your shoulder, like,
yeah, totally, absolutely, it is. But I found that I kind of thrive in those elements where it's under high pressure. So I try to make sure that I've got a balance of both. I've got a lot of archives where I can pull from stuff and build on something I've already got, or I've conditioned myself enough to be able to jam on the spot and create from scratch if need be. So yeah, I try to train myself to do both.
Is there a particular genre that you find easier, like say classical or reggae or jazz or whatever, if you're trying to emulate a certain sound? Because you've done some music, you've done a bit of music for film, haven't you, or short films and things?
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah,
I did a score for like a 48-hour film festival where I had to compose something it was in 12 hours, like an entire score. And you picked a genre out of a hat, and we got musical.
Yeah,
but they chose to do the music last. So they all sang, and most of them were out of tune, and then I had to try and accompany the music to it. And even that process in itself was pretty difficult, because it's a completely different thing, right? Scoring to a moving image,
I love scoring for film, and I've done quite a few. I mean, one of the first ones that I actually did was was for a short feature film for the Film Commission, and it was a hip-hop dance film with Paris Goebel doing all the choreography, and Rawiri Paratene from Whale Rider and all those movies. He was the lead actor, and that was a really weird one because they had a script, and I had to just read the script and make the music off the script without even seeing the actors and the dancers. And then I'd sketch something, throw it to them, and then Paris and the team, whatever, would respond, and that whatever they danced, the director would film that, send it back, and then I would add another. It was quite.
Oh, okay. So a lot of back and forth.
Yeah. And I learned heaps off that project, and that was a project by director Jack Woon, who is now one of the main guys for the Take Home Pay and a whole bunch of these films. So essentially, a lot of what I do has been the product of being around other creatives and just watching kind of how they work and their processes and so forth. So whether it's film, music, theater, sound design, I do a whole bunch of different stuff, but I count them as real blessings because the areas of music I would have never produced music in if they hadn't had kind of reached out. Otherwise, I'd just be making beats in my bedroom. But yeah, a lot of these projects are a result of people giving me a chance, giving me a shot. Like, hey, all that stuff you're making beats in, can you make it for this film? Can you make it for this live theater show? Can you make this in our art gallery? Can you make this in our museum?
So how does that come about? Just people just reach out to you? Or is it someone who knows someone that might hook you up?
I don't know how.
So
do
you go chasing it? Or
no, I do not do any advertising. I don't run any ads. My whole career today has been analog and offline. I've posted more and done more on social media in the past 2 weeks than the whole past 2 years combined. And I suck on social media. Had sucked, so everything's just been referrals, man, like in the background.
But in some ways that's good, man. I mean, I've had conversations with other people before, but social media can kind of consume your life in some ways.
I can see that. I've been on a bit of an experiment recently to just see how it works, how the game works. But also I treat social media like a training ground for me. Like the whole process of a music video, I try to compact it in and do a music video every day for social media. And people are like, man, you can't keep that up. And I'm like, well, this is my training regime. You're just watching it live in 15-second increments online and so forth. But social media is its own thing, but for me, I was always taught to just be the hardest working person in the room, and if you impress those people that gave you a shot, is going to get you the next shot. And like, this is what I've been doing full time for a long time now, off the radar, behind the scenes, doing what I love. Like every day I just open up my laptop and I'm like, am I making beats today? Am I shaping sound? Am I shooting video? Am I doing any combination of those? And it's, I'm just living my best life at the moment. But I realize it's only because people gave me a shot in these other different worlds of, you know, taking what I do and applying it to what they do. And, you know, it impresses their audience. And then they're like, hey, get the call up to try this thing and so forth. So
Do you find directing easier as opposed to making music?
Directing,
well, because you've done a bit of directing with in terms of music videos and stuff. I've seen like on your website with the green screen and stuff.
Like I said, I'm one of these guys like that just gets distracted by new things that I haven't done before. So I see a green screen, I have no idea. I just know, oh, okay, that's one of those things where you can change the background. So even, you know, just YouTube, see how you do it, give it a shot, and then ask some industry person that's in the industry how you do it properly, and then you just kind of figure it out. And
so
I just love.
Do you know how to do any visual effects?
So one of the artists that I'm with, Snare, like one of his first videos, like that video is us playing around with effects and just trying to figure stuff out. So I'm also conscious that it's like a rabbit hole, you know, like once you go into effects on a music video, you freaking spend the whole next day trying out music, you know, different effects and stuff. So I just get caught up in creative things, you know, like that I haven't done before. So music videos and docos and all these different things that I'm doing, the majority of the reason I'm doing is because it's exciting. It's something I haven't done before. And I think that's also that hip-hop thing, like when you discover how to make beat pause tapes, or when you discover a loop for the first time, you just get addicted to it. You want that feeling of new over and over and over again. And I'm conscious now as a rapper, as a hip-hop person, that my generation tends to like reminiscing on stuff that you're familiar with. And I know I need to counterbalance that by looking forward into things that I don't know. You know, that feeling of when you fall in love with hip hop for the first time, it's because you haven't heard hip hop before. Yeah. And so that feeling of something you haven't had before, I try to recreate that all the time as a creative. So I'm not wanting to stay stagnant and just doing the same thing over and over again. I'm always looking for that hip hop feeling of what's the next thing, what's the next way to flip something and make something different out of something. So
is there anything that you've seen on the horizon, or anything you haven't done that you're like, man, I really want to do that? In terms of, because it sounds like you've done
AI and AR, augmented reality, artificial intelligence. That's a big part.
In terms of what do you mean exactly?
The way
you mean programming AI to do music? Like, what do you mean exactly by AI and AR?
So certain parts of the process can be sped up, so you can spend more time focusing on the creative as opposed to the technical. Right. Like you were talking about the mixing, right? Yeah. So I just used the RX7 plugin by Isotope.
Yo, that's one of mine too, bro.
Like freaking heck. Yeah. Chuck that on. And it fixed, you know, just chucking it on, that 2-3 seconds to click something saved me what if I was to use a compressor and an EQ and try to sweep the frequencies, it would have taken me 10 minutes. Yeah. So I saved 10 minutes of technical time that I can now put onto the creative time. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, that's best practice. That's the best technology. That's now industry standard. So I'm looking, okay, how can I optimize my production flow across music, sound, and video so that I'm really efficient at the technical, so I can maximize my time on the creative and just build a team around that. So I definitely think that's a space that I'm wanting to move into, is to just kind of really get my flow technically on lock so I can free up time to just explore the creative side of things.
Because how much time do you spend per day doing all this stuff? Do you get is it like a routine where you're like, bang, I get up, open my laptop, I make a beat, then I go do this, and then do that? Man, or is it just whatever?
Yeah, it's crazy these days. It's any given day is different, man. Yeah. Some days I'm doing hip hop things. Another day I'm doing a hip hop thing within a dance theater context, and then next day I'm writing for an orchestra. Next day I'm filming Samoan resources for for some agency that's going to roll it out nationwide. Next day, we're just doing promo for the Masta soundtrack.
Yeah.
There's so much different things that I'm doing at the moment. And like I said, I just love keeping myself busy with different creative things that just keep me on edge. I don't like getting bogged down with the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. So how did the 37 Hertz thing come about? How did you go about starting that company? And how did you come up with the name 37 Hertz?
Oh, yeah, everyone always asks about 37 Hertz. Okay, so essentially, like, sound is measured in hertz.
Yeah.
For those
there's people listening and watching. They're probably like, what's
the
hell's
hertz?
A hertz?
Yeah.
Right.
So in the same way you measure distance in centimeters, kilometers, whatever. So the measurement unit for sound is hertz. So, like, if you imagine like a rubber band, if you slacken it and you flick it, it's a lower sound. And you can see the vibration. So, the lower the number, the lower the frequency. So, like 20 hertz is like a really low note, and you can see the sound waves. And if you tighten the rubber band and you flick, it's a higher sound and it's faster vibration. So, how fast the vibration is dictates the pitch or the notes. So, like, for example, all orchestras, they tune off an A on the piano just below middle C, and that's 440 hertz.
Yeah.
So that's vibrating 440 times a second. So basically for me, I found it fascinating that, like, for most people that when they learn the piano, they play a C major chord, C, E, and a G. But if you move that E to an E flat, it feels like a minor, So the difference between a major chord, which makes you feel happy, it has an E flat in the middle of the C and the G, and then when you lift that E flat to an E, it makes you feel happy. So E flat makes you feel sad, E makes you feel happy.
Yeah.
And E flat is 422 vibrations a second, hertz, and the E is 459. So simply going from 422 frequencies to 459 frequencies, you can change somebody's emotion from sad to happy. So 37 frequencies, the air vibrating 37 times more changes your human emotion.
Yo, that's brilliant, man. That's brilliant.
And I found that, like, freaking fascinating.
Yeah.
That we're not even talking art here, we're talking pure science.
Yeah.
Like, we're just saying that the air moves a little bit faster and you go from feeling sad from that minor chord to happy.
So was that something you just were, like, thinking of randomly one day, or did
I saw it on a TED Talk? A classical Michael Tilson, he was just explaining, the fundamentals of music and so forth. And when he explained this thing about the difference between major and minor chords, and he was saying, the difference was that thing, I was like, that's insane. Because you kind of got the world of math and science over here, then you got the world of art and creativity and subjectivity over here.
Yeah.
And yet something that's so subjective to us, what makes us feel happy and sad, is actually based on pure numbers. That started getting. So that's what my wife and I named our.
So when you did your wife hear it? Were you both watching it, or did you have to be like?
I had to show her, and she tripped out too. And I mean, she's the backbone of so much of what I do, and she spent 10 years working for the CEO of the Auckland Philharmonic Orchestra, so she's been around it all the time too.
Oh, that's cool. So you guys are both into music and stuff, and you're both on
we're both in the creative
arts.
Absolutely. So 2 years ago, I was traveling with a cultural program, and cut a long story short, like, I knew after that trip I'd spent 4 years on the road with this Indigenous cultural revival program called Samoa 101. But basically, I saved all my per diems and stuff from that trip, got back to NZ, and then bought the online domain, redeveloped the website. And
did you redevelop the website personally, or did you pay? Really?
Squarespace, just went on, figured it out, and then I had to, because I'd had Anonymouz.co.nz, but, like, I was really, after coming back from that trip and wanting to kind of get back into the creative industry, like, really hard, like, give it another shot. I was like, okay, I want to get the .com. I want to get the premium estate. And then, some company had bought it in the States for thousands, and they were like, we'll only give it to you for, and I was like, well, I'm going to put a commitment behind the brand, bought the site. And like I was saying, everything that I've done in my career today has kind of been offline. I don't talk about it much and so forth. It's just kind of been sporadic all over the place. So put it all in one cohesive place on the website, and just started. Yeah, we registered our company again, just got it all set up, formalized a whole bunch of projects, and we just, because up until that point too, my wife had been supporting me in a personal capacity. Yeah. Like she's got a massive, she's OG in her own right in terms of her history, especially growing up as in the Otara music and creative scene, and she's been through numerous arts organizations, but people always assumed that we collaborated and worked together. Yeah. No, she was just supporting me as her husband. So when we kind of set up the company, we were like, no, we are officially gonna collaborate and work together. Take the best of your arts management skills, take the best of my artistic production skills, and we're just gonna combine it and create this company and just see where it goes. And we're now into our second year, and we've just had some freaking insane wins along the way. A lot of lows as well, but it's all part of the game. But we're on a great journey, man. Yeah, it absolutely does. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So ain't dead yet. So obviously we're being prepared for bigger and better things.
That's cool, man. That leads into my next question: is how did the Fast and Furious Hobbs Shaw thing come about?
Yo,
congrats on that, by the way.
Oh, thank you, brother. Yeah, that was crazy, man. That was a freaking hectic outcome. So this cultural program that I was part of, Angufa Samoa 101, I was their videographer, content creator for 4 years.
Yep.
11 cities around the world: Auckland, Wellington, Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, Perth, Hawaii, Seattle, each city numerous times. And every time we used to go into Brisbane, I'd connect with all the homies that I used to do music with here. So one of those was The Movement.
Yep.
Otara, South Auckland. We had started to do a lot of music together prior to him making the move to Oz. And so we, every time I flew into Brisbane for this program, I'd always slide aside some time to connect up with them, And every time we go over, drop a verse here and there and so forth. So one of those trips over in 2016, I had that beat, half beat, like we were talking about before, it was a half beat. And I developed it on the plane on the way over to Brisbane. And then after class, one evening, he was like, hey, I'll take you out for feed if you haven't had dinner. So we're 1 a.m. in Hungry Jack's, Burger King.
Because it's called Hungry Jack's in Australia, right? Yeah.
So we're just having a feed, man. And I still remember it clearly. He was in the driver's seat. I had the laptop and Beats Pill. And he was like, play me some beats. And I was just playing through a couple of different beats. And then there was that track for Masta. Like it was a very early iteration of the beat. Like I said, I just added some drums on it or something on the plane. I had the sample. And he was like, man, what are you doing with that? But I knew it was a dope beat. And I was like, I was going to hold on to it. It was one of those, I was like, oh, no, I'm going to. But then I was like, I remember even hearing my own thoughts going, bro, you've been holding onto that beat forever. It's not doing anything. It's not moving. It doesn't have any energy. You need to give it to somebody who's going to push it forward. So I was like, you know what? If you can do something cool with it, sweet. I woke up the next morning and he sent me screenshots. He had already got my record confirmed on it or something, like some OGs. And I was like, man, okay, cool. This could be a real thing. So we kind of got it rolling. Then the next trip a few months later came over, recorded his verse in his kitchen. We used to record upstairs, but I had gout on that trip, so we just recorded in the kitchen. So his verse was recorded in the kitchen. You can kind of hear the reverb in the back. And we just, one thing led to another. Before you know it, we had all the verses in.
Sorry, what year was this?
2016.
2016. Yeah.
And then the track was done, and it was legendary, man. Like I got to work with Kaz in the studio, and having Rex and Smooth and Kapisi send through their stuff. Like I'm a massive fan of these guys. Like, like to me, it was still quite surreal to kind of open up your inbox and have them send the verse in, and I'm still a fan first and foremost. So it was a real privilege. So once we got the track together, then he wrangled one of the other boys that we've done projects with in the past, Tukilo Man, Joe Murdy, and they shot the music video for it.
Yeah.
We put it out and it was dope. It was cool. And that was that. that was 2016, 2000. I think the video came out 2017. So Q to this year, we get a random email from Move, and he's like, "Yo, I don't know if this is serious, but Universal are looking to use this track for."
So how'd they find it?
They just looked online. Yeah, I don't know, Samoan hip hop. Who knows what their team looked for, and yeah, so my wife, who handles all our logistics and communications and stuff, she looked into it, and we were all skeptical. But she looked into it, and then she got back. She goes, "This is legit. This is actually possibly legit that this track could be on The Rock's next movie." So we're like, yeah, whatever. And he's like, because Move is right. Like, he was like, in this industry, you get promised so much. And
man. I've been through the same, dude. I totally know firsthand. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And then you get your hopes up, and then you're like, oh.
It sucks when it doesn't pull us. Yeah. So we were like, yeah, whatever, And then it started to progress up the chain, and we're completely independent. Like, we're not a major label or anything. And to navigate like the things you have to go through to deal with these Hollywood companies is like freaking insane, man. It's a whole nother level of communication.
What do you mean exactly? Like, do they call you and ask you a lot of questions, or is it
just
email
correspondence and all the boxes you got to tick and all the legalities, and you got to get lawyers involved, and you got to make sure that you've got because it all comes down to licensing and sync rights. Even very early on, it's very exploratory. Like, in the world of film, they trial the track. They're like, we're just interested in using it. And, as they develop the edit and the cut, they might move it around the movie, or they might not use it at all, and so forth. So
when they contact you, they're like, hey, we're wanting to use it in a specific scene.
Yeah.
Is there some contract you just have to sign for the specific scene, or is it?
Yeah, well.
And then as they move the scene, you have to sign, go back and then edit the contract to change things?
Yeah, from what I understand, because my wife did the majority of these negotiations, and she kept us all in the loop. But everything's up in the air all the time. Yep. Everything constantly switches up till the last minute. Like, we were still negotiating when the trailers were out.
Really?
That's what I mean. This is how Hollywood. It's a whole nother ball game. Like, the trailers are out, like promoting the movie, and they were still playing around with where they're going to put this track, Masta, in the actual film.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we didn't get our hopes up. But then, closer to the time, then they were like, okay, we're going to use it in the chop shop scene. We're going to, they were quite specific.
Yeah.
Initially, it was going to be in this scene. Now it's going to be in this scene.
So when they said they're going to use it in this scene, did they actually show you the scene? Did you get to see any?
No, we didn't see any.
So you didn't see any of the footage?
Until the premiere, yeah. And that's pretty much how it rolls with these guys,
Yeah.
But, we had to sort it all in the background and all this sort of thing. And for us, it was crazy because not only did we get on the film, like the film sync, like it's actually in the film itself, but then they got back and they were like, actually, we want to put it on the actual official soundtrack.
Yeah.
So like when you go on to Spotify or whatever, like there's us in the middle of all these huge, names, like there's our names. So that was a whole separate deal because that's a soundtrack.
Did you contact the rest of the boys? The other guys who were on it, like Mariko and Poetic?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. That's what I mean about the whole, you've got to clear everything, make sure the communications.
Yeah. But they were all good with it?
Yeah. I mean, we had to kind of navigate. There's so many people involved in this track. And this is the great thing about it. Like I don't want to get into specifics, but when we did the track in 2016, there's an industry way that you divvy up royalties and so forth like that. But, for us, like as Indigenous Samoans, we kind of use our own cultures as a frame of reference to how we operate in terms of the divvying up of things and so forth.
Yeah.
So we made sure that all the boys were taken care of back in 2016 before we even got to this thing. So when this came around, it was easy. We just it was just about lines of communication, making sure that everybody was, knew what was happening and so forth. And it can be quite complicated too, because without getting into too much details, people can research all of this, but every artist on there would have to usually lawyer up and to oversee the contracts and so forth, and that takes a huge chunk of the actual fee from Hollywood. So we're like, no, let's round it up. Let's use one lawyer to oversee things.
That's
so we can keep
smart way of doing it.
So it was just being about smarter with how we do things and just trying to keep those lines of communication open with everyone. And, that can be a complex process because everyone's from different teams and different crews and, different levels of understanding about how the industry works. But we knew that at the end of it, it was all alofa, it was all love. It was all love from 2016 when we started the track, when they all decided to help out the move on the track. And, he threw them the bars and we cut them in on the royalties a certain way. And so, when this opportunity came up, we're like, man, this is such a blessing. So, hit the boys up and saying, this is what,
That's cool because, like, sometimes in these cases, when something blows up, particularly when it involves a great deal of people, it can cause friction and relationships when money is involved sometimes. So it's cool to hear that wasn't the case and that you guys were all on the same page.
Look, there's friction regardless in these sorts of things.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
Or, it's the industry, man, and Hollywood's involved, and it's the core underlying principle, like I said, for us is that even before we even use the word industry, for the way me and my wife work, like we operate under our fundamentals of Samoa and the Samoan way of doing things. And it's, to use an analogy, like when an expedition goes out on a fish to, catch some fish, a fishing expedition, when they bring it back, they make sure the whole village gets it.
Yeah.
Okay, take this to the minister, the whaiwhao, take this to all the high chiefs, take this to these chiefs, and then the rest amongst just make sure everybody gets a part of this blessing, And so before we even think about APRA, AMCOS, Recorded Music, all these organizations that get involved, brilliant. We tapped into them. We're so grateful to them. They helped us navigate the space. But prior to that is that entrenched kind of belief. We were like, okay, we've got this opportunity. Like, who helped on the music video? Like Hollywood Husbands, who did some of the skits. Like, who was involved in this that needs to, in some way, catch some of these blessings. So it was a real blessing that we were able to just put our, something that was sketched out in a car park over some food, that moment there could end up in this moment here. And so it was a real blessing, man, to just know that, you just focus on creating art, just make the music. Like when we're sitting in that car park having a feed and playing beats, that's the furthest thing from our mind to think, oh man, this could be a Hollywood soundtrack thing. That's not what we did it for. We're just making it because I love making beats. He loves to rap. We love to throw up. Cool, man, let's throw up our culture and our pride on this track. That's all it was. But to think that it could then somehow find its way onto somebody's email chain in Universal who would refer it up to... You can imagine the amount of people that are pitching for these projects.
Oh, there'll be like even talent agencies and everything in the States they have an artist and then they'll be like throwing it at Universal or Disney or Sony or whatever.
At any point in those communications, it could have been undercut. It could have been grass cut by somebody trying to get their project on. But it's just a real blessing, man. We're just so grateful that that piece of art that we made its way through, and it made its way all the way through. And grateful to everybody, all the organizations. Like I don't think a lot of the music industry here realize how much resources and free advice there is out there in the industry to help us navigate these types of things. And to, we caught on all the organizations that's their role here in New Zealand to support creative artists. And they informed us, okay, these are how the rights used, and we really recommend that you use a lawyer this way so that we've seen this many times and most of that fee will go into things, so do it this way, blah blah blah. And we saw this happen with Savage's project, we saw this happen with this project, so we recommend you doing this. And so we just, okay, cool. And we just made our way through.
Because there's quite a few. I know you've done some stuff with Rep FM and Prestige and stuff. Because he's one of those guys that's really trying to get the information out there. Because there's a lot of musicians that don't know this stuff. I mean, I used to work for APRA at one point. And I kind of learned how the whole royalty system works. And then I was like telling a lot of my boys how it all works, and hey, you need to protect yourself, and this contract, and you're entitled to a royalty if you're performing live, and all these all these things that a lot of artists just don't know.
Man, be shocked about how many still don't know. The amount of collaboration. Sometimes I just do collaborations just to see if they know things. Just see if they would offer up that cut, or there's a lot of collaborators and people out there that front that they're in the industry and they're all set up and they're legit and they're hustling, and you know, we'll try to do business and they're not even GST tax registered.
So many of those dudes.
They're like, oh, sorry, can we take the payment another way? We haven't been set up this way. But you know, they're fronting online like they're all official and everything, and it's like, look, man, we're all trying to re-up here, you know, and do proper business. And
do you call them out on their bullshit sometimes? Be like, hey, come on, man.
I'd love to, but I mean, the wha'aloalo and wha'asamoa me pulls me back and just says, you know, don't air them out. Just don't deal with them. You know, it's not good for business. Like, we all trying to improve our lives here.
Yeah, well, New Zealand's a village, right? So you don't really want to burn bridges and stuff with people, really, or make a...
and you want to give your time to those who do want to respect that space of collaboration. Totally. Like, when you hollered through, like, you came through the website and all these things, and you were like, how did your company start? Like, the amount of interviews I've done where the interviewer knows nothing about what I've done, and yet they've asked for my time to come through, and they haven't done any research and all of that. You know, you just don't feel valued and so forth.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, if I'm asking someone to come on here for like an hour, 2 hours, particularly if they're not in the Waikato, you know, and they're coming down from Auckland, man, like you gotta give them your time, you know. And no, I mean, I knew about you anyway, but obviously even before you came in, there was other stuff that I was researching. I was like, oh, true, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so, you know, I always try to free up my time for people who are on the same path of self-improvement, entrepreneurship, who are really trying to create something and, you know, be legit about it, serious about it, that it's not just a front and it's not just for props or ego online, but they're actually serious about making real moves and so forth. So I remember when you hollered through and I was like watching, like, I loved the fact that you've got like hip hop guys, but then you've got like politicians and all these different things, because I get into that type of stuff myself and I'm like, man, these are really interesting conversations this dude's holding down over there. So yeah, so I try to limit my time with guys in this industry who ain't about that life for real. You know, they can say it online, they can front it, but when we actually have to put pen to paper or put some dollars down, they're not set up for that. They ain't ready to walk the talk. Then, do
you find that you deal with more people though that are not fronting and they're actually keeping it real, or?
I'm really grateful that I have my partner in business and life. She's the filter for that. Like no one gets through to me unless it's through her. You know,
that's awesome.
She's the filter. She's the one that, you know, she's got an amazing background. She's a real people person too. Like, I'm like the opposite of her. Like, I don't really like talking to people.
You're doing all good now.
If I don't need to, I don't want to talk to people. You know, I prefer to just kick it with my day oneers and my in-house team and people on the same journey. But she's a very people person. Like, she's out there in the arts community and always you know, and so she's like a filter for the pretenders that aren't really serious about things, and those, she's like, this opportunity's come up. Do you want to do it? And if I know if it gets to that point, then it's worth it already.
Yeah.
Like, and so I'm really privileged.
I got to give a shout out to your wife then.
Yeah, so my wife Norma.
For passing on the message to Anonymous. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So, and it was the same thing too. Like, when she shot it through, I saw your request and I was like, man, this dude's solid. Like, he's obviously done a bit of research, and then, you know, looked up your page and everything, and I was like, man, this guy's grinding. Like, he's got a mean setup. Like, he's building his online tribe, and I'm like we need to you know, just give him value, like share, you know, put some time aside. Even the boys took time aside just to shadow me down here. And
thanks for coming, boys.
You know, like, we just you recognize real when you see it, you know, like people who are on that grind, and that's the kind of people we try to prioritize to be around. And so forth,
totally, because success breeds success, right? So if you're around people that are successful, it helps motivate you.
Oh man, honestly, I literally only am where I am because of other people. Like, other people gave me a shot. Like, otherwise I would have just been making average beats in my room, in my bedroom. But along the way, so many different people and organizations said, yo, what you're doing there, come do that over here for this particular project. And you will get to sit alongside this dude from whatever his field is. And I'll just watch them and then go, how do I apply that to this hip hop thing? And then I take that accumulation of knowledge, move to the next project, and then apply it to that. And I'm literally a product of my collaborations and people that have given me a shot or an opportunity to do my thing in their space.
Yeah. I know you do a bit of mentoring within the community and within South Auckland. I did talk to Unchained about this when he was on, because I know you're heavily involved in that stuff. And obviously, South Auckland sometimes has a bit of a negative stereotype as being low socioeconomic class, and everyone's just all gangsters and just running around causing trouble. But in your experience with dealing with a lot of the youth, do you find that there's kids that music is an outlet for them to escape, some of the bad stuff at home and all of that?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, absolutely. There's a project. It was kind of after that project I started pulling back for a certain period on doing a lot of mentoring and education work. But there's a program my wife and I started with the Auckland Philharmonia Orchestra called APO Remix, where we partnered up with Auckland Philharmonia, and we basically got their world into the hood, and we just put them in the studio with South Auckland kids who have no idea what an orchestra does and what those classical instruments do.
That's so cool, man.
The look on their faces when, you give them an opportunity to be in a studio, let alone in a studio with this foreign instrument that sounds a certain way. To the majority of them, like, they only know the violin from a Disney soundtrack, or when you press instrument 048 on a Casio keyboard.
Yeah.
But when you put them in a room and they actually got real violins, hood kids, to see something outside of their comfort zone. That's the key part here. That's the key to all of this, is you can only grow when you're outside of your comfort zone.
I agree.
When you're surrounded by the same music, and so that was the key part to the whole orchestra thing, because they were always going to have hip hop anyway. Like, they're going to be making beats in their bedroom anyway. So they're really not stretching outside of their comfort zone. So we brought in that element of classical music because it is foreign to South Auckland.
Yeah.
And for them to kind of then engage with that process about, some of these hood kids are like, they're watching the violinist do a certain way, but they're like, can you do it this way? You're like, their hood mentality.
Yeah.
What if you run your ruler on it, or can I tap on it, and sample that, and the way they are. And the pride in their faces when they kind of engage with some of these programs. So that program in 2013 was one of the top 3 music programs in the world. So won International Music Council, which is an arm of UNESCO, the UN. So they delegate out 3 awards for the best programs in the whole world. In 2013, it was one of them. And we were so proud of that because it was in South Auckland, but it was just a bunch of kids that were stretching outside of their comfort zone. It's easy to make beats in your bedroom, but it takes a lot of bravery and commitment in your school holidays to show up to Auckland Music and Arts Centre.
So how do you convince them to even go along in the first place? To even step out of their comfort zone, to even convince? So say like a kid convincing them, hey, you should come see an orchestra, if they're not even into it? Or is it the curiosity that just gets them?
It's the curiosity, and I leverage a lot of my reputation in those industries. Like in South Auckland, like, a lot of people get it twisted. Like, my background coming up in music was hood, like making beats for Erman, Mr. Sick, The Movement, Face Killer, and I love the aesthetic of the music. Like, I'm not from the streets, I'm not a gangster or anything, but I grew up loving the sound of West Coast LA hip hop, and to me, I'd always grown up thinking that South Auckland was the West Coast, like us in Mang.
It has that kind of reputation.
Yeah, yep. And so to kind of use that analogy, like, Otara is the Compton, bringing the heat.
Yeah.
And Mangere is chilled out like Long Beach. Yep. So, we were always chilled out in Mangere, and Mangere and Otara have always had a very close relationship. Shout out FDKNS. And so I've always grown up in the culture of the music, the street element of the music, and so I was always making music with a lot of these, these OGs in South Auckland from the music aspect. So I'd kind of leverage my connection to those guys. So, the kids were like, oh, yeah, that's that dude that did Erman's album, or, he's got that Mr. Sick track or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm be like, yeah, that's me coming to Auckland Music Arts. We got this,
Man.
And once they're in, then they're hooked. Yeah. I will never forget one of the days on one of the programs, my wife and I got a text from one of the kids, couldn't get a ride in, and we pulled up to their house, State House, and the next door surrounded by armed defender squad, guns out and everything. They didn't blink. They're like, whatever. They just wanted to hop in the car.
Yeah.
And we're like, what's going on there? And they're, oh, they got caught, gee, you know, and it's like far out, you know, like, and he's leaving that environment, taking time out of his day when he could be slanging, doing whatever. And he came out with us to record some trombones and violins and stuff. So it's, yeah. The media love to play on the fact that we're all street and hood and everything, but give us a shot, give us a chance, our kids a chance.
I don't think it's all like that anyway.
Yeah, totally not.
But yeah, as you said, the media like to play it up. But as someone who's lived in South Auckland, I mean, I'm originally from West Auckland, and I went out south a couple of times, and I remember I met a rapper in Otara because he wanted to buy some beats off me.
Yep.
And he's like, yo, man, you need to get out of here by 9:30 p.m. And I'm like, why? He's just like, some shit's going to go down. You need to get out of here. And I'm like, okay. But then one of my best mates lives in Otara. And so, but why do you think that, you know, there is that stereotype in South Auckland? Do you reckon like a generational thing in terms of, you know, kids are just not able to break out of the cycle, or they're just exposed to negativity, and there just needs to be more positive influence?
Yeah. I know for myself, in terms of the life changes I've had in the last year or two, you know, I've come to understand that your environment is one big vision board. You know, what you see is what you get. Like the more you see of something, the more you get of something. So you have to change your environment, change the way you think, completely change what you see in order to have more of that. And that's an indigenous fundamental to all the different cultures and so forth, that you've got to really respect your surroundings, the land and everything. So when you're in these South Auckland environments where every corner is a liquor store, every corner is a bakery, a takeaway, and, you know, it's not like that in Riviera. It's not like that.
No,
you know,
not at all.
So that's what you're going to get more of. You see junk food, you're going to have more junk food. You see alcohol, you're going to abuse alcohol more. You see the bullet shops all over slanging, you're going to get more of those things. And so until you physically change the vision board, the environment, then you're going to change the way people see things. And so, you know, it's a hard battle, but South Auckland, we were pushed out. It goes back to all these conversations about gentrification, how, you know, Ponsonby, you know, they wanted to clear that space, so they just pushed all the poorest people out to South Auckland, and, you know, now they're pushing further and so forth. So
do you find with the way Auckland's getting in terms of housing and how expensive it is to live there now, because I'm from there, you know, I know how ridiculous it's getting. Do you find that people in South Auckland are struggling even more so now than they were before? Or do you think it's still largely the same in terms of, you know, because rents are high and housing, and, you know, it's and you add in the liquor stores and the bakeries and the gangs and stuff, in terms of just of what you see, obviously not, or in terms of the youth that you've dealt with?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, because to be really honest, for myself in recent times, I'm so tunnel focused on what I'm doing, that I'm unaware, like I don't buy too much. I've had to kind of change the way I think about South Auckland. Like
in terms of, how did you used to view it?
Very scarcity minded, very poverty minded. Like there's only so much resources to go around, and there's, you know, it's the politicians' fault, it's the system is against us, which it is to a certain degree, but the ability to change it is actually no Illuminati hidden secret. Like there is a way out of this to actually take back control of your own life. And I only say that because, like, for example, these days I wake up with $1 million view, like next to the harbour.
Is that because I think I saw that on Facebook, I think, when you and the movement were promoting the Fast and Furious. Is that the view you're talking about?
So we're right next to the Manukau Harbour, next to the bridge. Wake up and live to something I only have ever seen when I was on holiday. Yeah. You know, and there's my beloved Mangere Bridge. There's Mangere Mountain, Te Pane o Mataho. Here's you know, Te Waiahua, the Manukau Harbour. And so, you know, me and my wife are in business. We were on this lease place, and that was, without getting into details, was way more than what the last hood place we were staying at. And so it was just a mentality switch for me and a reprogramming.
But I think in some ways, like if you think of someone who maybe comes from lower class and then they end up in that spot, they able to like they'd appreciate that view more than someone who's just born with that.
Yeah, totally. And that's what I mean. Like I've had to kind of reprogram myself to go, no, you know, we absolutely have worked this hard for this view, and to be in the spot where we can do business and actually leverage everything we've worked hard on in the industry now. But it all comes back to this thing, right? Like, I know life's hard in South Auckland, but I'll tell you, like, it's all contextual, because for our parents and me and my wife, we are so driven by this. Like, at some point, her father and my father were just tapped on the shoulder and go, you know, they're plantation workers. That's all they know in Samoa.
Yeah.
That's all they know. And then they got a tap on the shoulder. You know, in 3 days' time, you're going to have a suitcase and you're going to go to this foreign land, New Zealand. You don't know how to speak any language. You don't know anyone there, but you are now going to set up our family's future there, you know. And so they would have had to come over. They don't know anyone. They don't know the language. They don't have a job. They don't have any money. And then they managed to not only survive, but they thrived. You know, they built our homes here. They bought they raised our families. They built the family homes and raised our families back in the islands and supported them there. They built the churches. They've allowed us to have careers like this. And I look at how much adversarial challenges they had to overcome on that battle to get us to this point. So whenever I think about South Auckland, and it's like, the hood's hard, I'm like, yo, it's not that hard.
Yeah, I mean, I went to India last year, and like that gave me a bit of a reality check. Yep. In terms of, whoa, okay, like it's very easy, particularly when you live in a small bubble. It's you're basically shut off from the rest of the world sometimes, and and you can end up getting tunnel vision, as you've said, and you can't see things from another perspective. So yeah, I think it's always good to get an eye opener to see these things, because you've been to Samoa
many times.
I think I've read somewhere that you accompanied John Key to Samoa.
Yeah, man, that's what I keep talking about. Like, I'm in my position because somebody decided I was worthy of making beats with John Key on a trip to Samoa. So that was 2012. It was Samoa's 50th independence celebrations, and they were taking over a delegation. So we went on like the Hercules plane and all of that sort of stuff. So it was like a plane full of OG Samoan New Zealanders. So they had all like David Tua, Michael Jones, all the sportsy guys, all the politicians, and they took over 6 artists. So it was a contingent called Return to Hawaii. Like, they took over 6 visual artists. So they had like the OGs of Samoan art. So they had Fatu Feo'u, Lonnie Hutchinson, and for some reason at the last minute they took one of them out, and then they hit me up. They were like, would you like to go on this trip and make beats? And I was like, sheesh, yeah, okay. And just being on that trip, again, it was just one of these, I remember being on that trip, like, you got these high-end artists, and we had to do artist talks. So, you know, Fatu Feo'u, who's a legendary artist, he was like talking about the depth of his paintings and like how he carved this thing and so forth, and everybody had to do that. And I'm like, man, I only make beats in my room. I don't know how to. So I remember lying that night trying to figure something out, and I remember lying on my bed and the fan was just flicking around, making this weird sound. So I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a beat, but I'm only going to use sounds from the island, naturally resource it.
Oh, nice.
So I sampled it, went out, started recording things, and then I just chopped it up and made a beat on the spot, and then did my artist talk, and it blew their minds. They're like, man, that sounds like music. But I was like, yeah, but it's completely made out of natural resources. So that was my arty thing. I was telling them, natural resources, you chuck us in the jungle, we can take a look around and okay, we can make a feed out of that, out of that. If we need shelter, get that branch, get that twig, get that. Okay, cool. Now we got architecture. So I was like, okay, I need to make a track. Okay, where's my kick drum? Oh, the wave's crashing. There's my kick drum. I need a snare. Okay, that guy just dropped that paint can. Okay, cool. That's my snare drum. And so I just adopted that mentality and did my artist talk on that trip, which was
was this just in a hotel?
At an art gallery there. The Vanya Tole Alo Art Gallery. So it was on some Kanye-ish, but the Pacific version of it, you know. And I just remember coming off that trip, people were like, man, yo, that was dope, man. You need to do more of that. And I was like, really? okay. And then I came back to New Zealand, and then I started doing that thing for like art galleries, museums, like a real bougie avant-garde crowd. And they loved it. But I made sure I kept the music production and hip-hop thing ticking over. And that's when I started really expanding my mindset about, yo, man, this music production thing could be as big as you know. It's like I was saying, you got to take the blinders off. Like if you just look at it as just making beats, and then that's what it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, but for the kind of personality that I had, I've always been just one of those like, you know, just looking around, what else is buzzy in this? Like I need to continuously learn. I need to continuously figure something out. I don't want to figure out something I've already figured out, or do something I've already done. I need something to keep me interested in.
Do you ever take a break though, or is music always on your mind? Like sometimes you're like, yo, I'm just gonna take a break for a couple of days, or you're like, nah, I gotta always keep working.
I'm just freestyling. Honestly, like me and my wife just freestyle. We're living our best lives. We're like,
well, you're doing well, man.
Maybe we could move that around. Like, do you need a break here? Do you feel like doing some film scoring right now, or do you want to do some hip hop, or do you want to, you know? And then we just kind of plan ahead in advance, but. Yeah, I'm just fascinated in just building stuff out of digital content. That's kind of like where I'm now. If I'm either making music, shaping sound, or shaping video. That's basically what I'm doing.
So when you're not doing music or film or any of that stuff, what do you like to do in your spare time? When you're like, I don't have any spare time.
Yeah, man, I guess I'm kind of similar to Gary Vee in this instance. My downtime is work. But it's like maybe work.
But then if you enjoyed it, is it really work? I don't think it's work.
Yeah, but that's it. That's it. It's not work to me. Like, I mean, I do have downtime, like, you know, drink with the boys and like me and my wife, we love hunting for Afghans.
True.
Yeah, like everywhere we see an Afghan, we have a rating system.
Yeah.
So we have these little gimmicks quirky things that we work into our lives as a step outside of the creative zone. But no, the creative zone for me never stops.
Yeah.
Like my mind is just wired the way it is, that it's always ticking and clicking, potential rearrangement of things to use in a potential story. So
yeah. True, man.
There's not too much downtime at the moment.
Not too much downtime, but would you want downtime anyway?
Yeah. I realize the need for rest and recreation, so I'm trying to get better at it. My wife's really trying to help me through it. Like, I did do well there for a certain period.
Does she be like, oi, get off the keys, take a rest?
Yeah, man. I mean, this whole week, like literally this whole week, only because I've got a lot of critical projects that are coming to conclusion. Like each night I'm only catching like 3 hours sleep per day.
But then, man, that ain't good, bro.
I know that's not good.
Yeah.
I absolutely know, but it's kind of whatever it takes to get certain things done, because I know that is critical to the next move. And like, man, the majority of our projects at the moment are embargoed. Like, I didn't even know what the word embargo means, like, until she's like, we can't talk about this publicly and legally until, you know. And I look at those opportunities and I'm like, man, what if we take that opportunity and cross-pollinate it with that opportunity there and that thing there. And when you kind of figure out the logical steps, in the same way as a producer, you know, you're like, that kick goes with that snare, with that hi-hat. Like, business is a big thing for me at the moment. Mm-hmm. Like, we're really looking to just build up like the business and equity.
So how did you get like a bit of a business mind? Have you always had a business mind, or did you have to kind of learn?
Man, did
learn it? Because I don't really know that much about business. I've only learned about business by having guests on here talking about it, really. I
didn't really think about it until our first year in business. Like I've always been like, the past 10 years, I've only been doing this. Like, I've never worked a real job in my life. I've only ever opened the laptop for a living and made stuff. But it wasn't until, like I said, when we started our 37 Hertz company after the first year, and then my wife came home and you got to sign here on the tax returns, and she was like, that's how much you made on music last year. And I was like, I've never paid close attention to it. And I was like,
good thing you got her, man.
And I was like, damn, for real? Oh, that's crazy. Okay. And she was like, you just gotta, you know, it's great, but it can't come at a personal cost to your mental health and like you've got to scale back on some of these things. But it just caught, she was like, you've been doing this for a long time, you're naturally inclined. And that's what I said, like, in terms of that whole producer mind where you're kind of figuring out, if it's music, it's that kick goes with that snare, that hi-hat, that chorus goes with that bridge. In videography, it's like that shot goes with that shot and that transition.
Yeah.
So business is like that opportunity should go with that opportunity there, and that'll set up that thing there. And so I just kind of view business as part of the production process. So because we've done a lot of projects in different areas of the creative industry. Like, I'm not just a music producer, even though that's like my foundation. Because I've done music production.
You wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, a lot of hats. So all those hats that I wear in different worlds, each one of those is a business vertical. So you can go, okay, partner that thing up with that and talk to them. And if they can see the value in it, now you've got a project and a cash flow and so forth. So she was like, do you realize how many verticals you're sitting on as a producer? And then I was like, whoa, okay, let me convert that to business. And like I said, at the moment, I mean, it's a bit of a freaky jump to make some of the moves that we've been making. And I can only testify, because I used to be a skeptic of a lot of the stuff. And I've had to move from a scarcity mindset to anything's possible.
So how do you shift that mindset? Or how did you shift it? Because it can be a very difficult thing to do.
Podcasts. Listening to podcasts like yours, information, people who are putting out information it's free information. Like, you don't have to go to pay money to go to university. So like, I just started listening. Like, I can't find any exact mentors right now. I could if I wanted to and had the time and stuff, but I haven't even had time to do physical mentors. So I just watch content online, and Gary V, Grant Cardone, Dan Locke, all these different guys saying, hey, do business, try this, try this, try this. And because I've already been doing it without even knowing that I was doing business, I was like, oh, okay, let me structure things a certain way. And sure enough, it works. I know I had to change my mindset, because in South Auckland, you are programmed by your environment to think a certain way. So I was like, I have to reprogram the way I think about things. So seek out the content online. Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, the different gurus who kind of talk about how the mind works. I was like, and same thing, I applied it. Damn, things change. So the information, we're living in this amazing era where the information is online. Like, I can honestly say, like, some of the podcasts I've caught of yours has freaking changed some of my mindset, like, about certain things that you talk about. And so I just started realizing, you've just got to be hungry enough to spend less time on wasting your time online and convert that time where you're just getting mindless stuff. It actually,
it's very easy to do though, and get
totally
sucked in.
And that's, I mean,
So it's good in a way that you're not too much on social media, because you can, once you're down the rabbit hole, man, it's it's hard to get out. Yeah,
and like my wife always reminds me, like, one of the things I've learned in business, and many mentors across many spaces have said the same thing. Whether you like it or not, the best product never wins. The best known product wins. Yeah. And I've always felt objectively that I've had the best product in different spaces. That's good. But I don't talk about myself. I've never put myself out there. But in terms of now the space that we're in, where we're looking to scale and really leverage a lot of what we've done in the dark and now execute it in the light, I had to be on social media, and I had to put out content, and I had to, so forth. So it's about getting that balance, but at the same time, like you say, you've got to have that integrity when the camera's off, when you're not on social media. So I'm not a different person.
I think a lot of people put up walls, or they just put up a front on social media.
Oh, totally.
Some of the stuff they say online, they'd never say to a person. They'd probably get a jab in the face. Probably.
Oh, we know that. we know that so well. Like I said, it's a collaborative industry, and the amount of people that we have to step into a business or collaborative space with, and let's do this, and then they're not even set up to do this, or they're not optimized to do this, then it's like, well, you put it out like that, but in real life you ain't even about that. So it's a balancing act, this whole social media thing, but like I said, we're just in this business space of leveraging, and it was really content that really helped me on that, instead of just spending mindless hours just searching through YouTube on just music. I love my music. So when I do allocate my music time, it's specific to that purpose. But any other time online, if I'm on YouTube, instead of 4 hours on YouTube music, it'll be 1 hour doing music and 3 hours self-improvement. Like learning how to compress ratios or learning how to do your taxes or learning how millionaires manage their money and so forth. And so it's just constantly, these days I'm a content creator, but I'm also a product of being a content consumer. Yeah. So I just kind of push out content and make music in the way that I know it's benefited me. My life's changed massively in the past year.
That's cool, man.
Personally, spiritually, financially, business-wise, and as my wife said, most of our life is embargoed at the moment. A lot of people view Masta as this amazing thing that was like a finish line. Masta for us was just a start line.
Yeah.
Like we've got so many things that have popped up, not necessarily because of that, but in spite of that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I look forward to hearing about that later down the line.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll always stay in South Auckland, or would you ever move anywhere else, or would you move back to Samoa or anything? Or
definitely wanna do something back in Samoa.
Yeah,
I mean the spot that we've got, man. I can honestly say, man, it's freaking blessed, man.
Yeah,
like every day when I open my eyes, when I wake up and I sit up, I'm like, I got another day, got another shot. You know, and to like I want to take myself back to zero. Like everything that I've done to this point counts. Every day I wake up, it's like I remember the World Cup, Richie McCaw, when he was like, you just cross it off. You forget about what you've done in the past. I mean, it's nice to brag and hang on it, but it's like, no, the next thing is the most important thing. And so I've always like South Auckland is home to me and my wife. Yeah, like she's Otara, I'm Mangere, we FDKNS rep it. Like, but at the same token, what drives us is we are very driven on repaying the cultural debt our parents laid. What I mean by that is, like I said, our parents lived a totally different life in Samoa, and they had their inherent things they were passionate about, and their lifestyles, their customs, their cultures. They had to drop all of that and put it on pause or completely abandon it to come here and live under the system of New Zealand and work the lowest paid jobs and clean people's toilets and all these type of things just so we could have an education and have a shot at a better life. So now that my wife and I are in these positions where we hold massive leverage in the spaces we're in, we had to repay that debt to our parents. That culture that was put on hold, now that we're in this spot, we have to take that culture and ramp it, pay it back, and push it out through our platforms so that we can move into the future without having any debt to the past.
Yeah.
So in terms of South Auckland will always be home, but we are driven to do something back in the islands just to kind of complete the mission our parents set out on, and then set up whatever it is for our kids and let, put parameters in place and things in place for them to kind of see what's possible and for them to pursue their own aspirations and dreams.
I need to go to Samoa at some point. I've been wanting to go for years and I just haven't gone.
It's the spot, man.
Yeah. Is there any, when I do go, is there anything in particular, any places I should check out, or a particular?
Well, me and Loretta here, we actually got another plan. We're going to be there in 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
For another project. Another project that's going to have massive implications for Samoans here in New Zealand.
That's cool, man.
And so we're going for that project, but now we're trying to leverage another project and build a gig while we're there and so forth. And Samoa's, it's home. It's where we come from as well. But we also, South Auckland's home to me too. Like, and every day I'm product of Mangere 275, so that's where I feel home.
Yeah.
Like Mangere Bridge Esplanade, there's a spot that I've been going to ever since as a kid. I try to go back there every few months, and people know me for it. This is when I do switch out, actually. Come to answer one of your further questions. When things used to get too much, I used to just pack my bags, chuck on headphones, get some liquor, and just go sit at this particular spot in Mangere Bridge and just the whole day just watch the sunset and just listen to the mixes or projects I've been working on, have a cry, whatever it is, just get it out of the system and then go back and keep working. I've been doing that ever since a kid. It blows my mind that to this day, that spot I was sitting at, if I turn right, I now see the place where my wife and I now reside and do all our work. So life has this real funny way of just, pulling these tricks on you and just preparing you for things that were always there. The answers were always there. You just got to turn your head and have a look around the room.
Sometimes the answers run in front of you and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I'm probably going to wrap up there unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
Yep.
No. I just want to say it's actually cool seeing you guys because I'm originally from West Auckland and I grew up around a lot of Samoans. And unfortunately, once you move out of Auckland, you don't see many of them. You know, I've been in Hamilton a few years now, and I haven't actually met any Samoans down here yet. So seeing you guys has actually reminded me back of West Auckland a little bit.
Man, we filled at the stadium for the Toa Samoa Tonga game for the Rugby World Cup. We came down for
I wasn't here. I was in Rotorua, so I was like, I'd imagine. I mean, I know what Tongan fans are like.
Yeah, but I remember, we all drove down for that, and we all went back again.
Yeah.
That was cool.
But yo, man, it's thanks again for coming through, bro. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, well, they're not going to get a hold of you. They'll get a hold of the wife. But where's the best way to contact you? Just your website.
Yeah. The website, anonymouz.com. So that's ANONYMOUZ. Everyone remember the Z. Everyone gets confused with the S.
Yeah. I'll put it in the link on YouTube and Spotify and
so
stuff.
Anonymouz.com, and then on the usual social media channels, it's Anonymous_37Hz. So ANONYMOUZ_37HZ. So,
Cool. All right. Well, that's the show, guys. We're probably going to finish. Anonymous is going to do a piece on the piano if the piano doesn't play up, which I'm hoping it doesn't. But make sure you check him out and all his stuff online. And thanks again, my bro.
Thanks for having me, Mills.
All right. That's the show, guys.